seminars we're doing for Blind Dog Gym here, bringing in health experts and experts in sport from the area. Adrian and I's businesses are 30 minutes apart, but we had to go all the way to Mississauga, Ontario, Canada to meet. She was introduced to me by Megan Tomei and Judd Logan in the hotel bar, and at about 12 in the morning, 12 at night, and then about 15 minutes later, you were working on Carrie Overfelt shirtless in the lobby of the hotel to fix his frozen shoulder. So anytime I have an injury or I have a nutritional type question, I go to Adrian. I'm going to look at this little blurb here to introduce her because she's got more certifications than I can remember. So Adrian has over 15 certifications, including elite trainer and CEU provider from the International Sports Science Association. She's a strength coach, a corrective exercise specialist, a metabolic analytics practitioner, and practices 7 modalities of bodywork. Adrian has helped me, I think Aaron was writing this, but me too, with several issues including body composition, injury prevention, recovery, and inflammation, and I highly recommend to everyone looking to maximize her own health and wellness. Adrian owns and practices out of FE3 in Rocky River, fitnessevolutionary.com. So anytime I have an injury, anytime I have a question about nutrition, diet, how to lose a little bit of extra body fat, Adrian is the go-to person I go to. She's a Poliquin coach as well, which automatically gives her street cred. So without further ado, Adrian Smith.
All right, good morning, guys. So when Mark asked me to talk, I was so excited. I'm like, oh my God, what do I talk about? What do I talk about? And then I'm like, all right, your audience, right? So who do I talk to? Who am I talking to? So again, it could have been anything from muscle stuff to strength training to prevention, injury prevention. And when he said he was going along the line of health stuff, I'm like, all right, well, let's talk about nutrition. Because I don't know how much information you guys get from that. You guys have Mark for a lot of the other exercise, muscle stuff. So I wanted to bring something different. And I also couldn't bring a nutritional seminar, I guess you can say, based off of diets or macros or any of that, because anybody who's ever worked with me or has heard me talk or any of that or knows what I believe in, every person's different. So I can't sit here and say, this is how many calories you should have a day, this is how many fats, carbs, proteins you should have. It doesn't work that way because it's too big. That's why the diet industry is $1 billion industry. They create diets and see who fits them, and some people work, it works for them, and some people it doesn't. But they always show you the ones it works for. Not the way more people that it doesn't work for. And also, I think when you start getting into nutrition, you have to look at that body and see what it's doing with nutrition, right? Because everybody's going to process foods differently. Food is nothing but information to the body. So how each and every one of you break down that food is going to be slightly different, just because of your lifestyle that you've had coming to where you are today. So I decided to break it down a little differently and just kind of talk about some basic yeses and nos pertaining to food in general. Again, I was so excited. I'm like, oh, it's going to be easy. I'm going to sit here and do this. Holy cow. I'm like, Mark, I need 8 hours for 8 days in a row for this. So we're going to kind of get through what we can. If you guys have any questions while I'm talking, go ahead and ask. We'll see how far we get in this hour. And I tried not to make it too scientific because I'm known for being way too scientific. But there's all scientific research for this. And I have it all if you guys want it. Whoever wants it, even anyone being recorded. So we're going to focus on health. And I am with FE3 Integrated Fitness in Rocky River. Website is fitnessevolutionrr.com. And yes, I've been doing this for a long time, and certifications are 27 now. Sorry. Just so I'm educated.
You need to update your website.
Listen, I have to pay for it. Clean up on aisle 9, man. How much stuff you want me to do? So we talk about what is healthy. Is it being skinny, being able to run a certain distance, training for a duration of time, lifting a certain weight, living a certain age, the way you feel, or what your tests say. Your doctors say, your tests say you're normal. No, right? No. These are things that you can use to maybe gauge it a little bit, but it doesn't matter. You know, a lot of people think, oh, you're thin, you're healthy, you're overweight, you're not. That's not true. There's a lot more that goes involved in that. Now, we'll talk about the overweight, obesity stuff, and again, tests are normal. So I don't know how much you guys know about testing, but they take the average American. So they take a group of, let's say 100 people for easy numbers, they take off the top 5% and the bottom 5%, and that's where you fit. Well, I don't want to be the average American, okay? So kind of seeing what's normal. The other thing to go along with the test is if things will show up on your tests and they don't piece them together. They look at just the numbers and they say, okay, great, your TSH is great, you're good to go. That doesn't tell you if you have a thyroid issue. That doesn't tell you if you're going to have a thyroid issue. You get a liver panel, it's a little off, but you're in the normal range. That doesn't necessarily mean that your liver is functioning correctly. It doesn't mean your pancreas is functioning correctly. So by the time it shows up on those tests from the doctors, in my field, you're kind of fucked. Because that means it's gone so long, it's been in your mitochondria for so long, it's been in your muscle cells for so long, that now we don't know how far you're down, you're come there. So for me, when people come to me, I kind of look at their body and I piece everything out, and then I say, okay, great. Here's the center, and this is where I have to get, but I have to start from out here to figure out everything that's happened. I have to backwards engineer, right? Thank God I have a mechanical engineering degree, because that's pretty much what I do with people that come into the gym, is I backwards engineer, even with an injury. Okay, you feel it today. How long has it sat there? How long ago did you do it? And how much of this is overcompensation versus the actual accident you just had, right? That could have been the straw that broke the camel's back, but where did it start and how long has it been there? So what is healthy is not necessarily those things. Things that matter the most in health is 1, inflammation, 2, inflammation, and 3, inflammation. Okay? Seriously, this right here, you keep this out of your body and you're good to go. Okay? Obesity is inflammation. It doesn't matter how much of it you have and how little you have of it. Adipose tissue is even the worst. Okay? You do need tissue, fat underneath your skin, and arm fat, leg fat does tell you how healthy you are. Adipose tissue tells you how healthy you're not. Okay? So you want to look for the belly fat. Okay? So what is inflammation? In the dictionary, it says redness, swelling, hot in a localized place, typically accompanied by pain. Okay. So we think typically ankle sprain, muscle strain, bloating, painful gut, allergies, asthma attack, arthritis, headaches, foggy brain, ADD, ADHD, depression, mood swings, obesity, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, which is now type 3 diabetes. Alzheimer's, by the way, can show up in your system 30 years before you start to get the symptoms of it. Well, before they call it Alzheimer's, but you've had symptoms for up to 30 years prior to. PCOS, endometriosis, irregular periods, high cholesterol, thyroid, Hashimoto's, unexplained fatigue, multiple sclerosis, cardiovascular disease, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So it starts off with your basic, this fits muscles when we think about that, when we roll an ankle or something, but how much do you realize here? Because we may not feel the red hotness, it may be other symptoms of inflammation. So can't always go with that. I did, I looked at you like, what did you do, Mark?
Unplug it, replug it. Pull it out. And what's on the screen?
My screen is this, and that screen is that. My screen is the actual presentation.
Okay, plug it back in.
Got it. Yay! All right. Causes of inflammation begin with the food we consume. It's really, literally that simple. So, the first one I'm going to pick on is sugar. This has probably been beaten to death, but I think it's important. It's found literally in everything. It has now become our new preservative, okay? Once upon a time it was salt, should have remained salt, but it's not. The human body knows how to regulate salt. How many of you guys have been hungry or full, right? You're full and you're eating food and you're like, that's it, I'm done. But all of a sudden you have room for dessert. I mean, literally, you could be like wheelbarrowing it out of the restaurant and like, wait, dessert? Yes, okay? The reason you get full and you stop eating, and especially if it's salty, is not just because you're satisfied. All that scientific stuff goes along there that tells you you're full. But you want to stop eating salt because you've had enough. So the taste buds will flip over until you've had enough salt, you're good to go. However, sugar, it's not regulated. It's not regulated in our body. To this day, our body doesn't regulate. We've been on this planet for a long time. Still doesn't regulate. Then you have things that, along with your body, as I said earlier about it being independent to that person or individualized, is how well do you break down sugar. Some of us break them down better than others, hence diabetes. So as of June 3rd, 2020, Americans consumed 11 million metric tons of sugar between 2018 and 19, and that was up 1 million from 2010. And in 2018, there was 33.14 sugar beets were produced. They didn't even mention grains and starches, which is broken down into sugar in the body. So beets, why beets? Remember that. Okay. So needless to say, we're consuming a shit ton of sugar. Does it matter the type of sugar? Nope. Sugar. This is all the sugar that you're going to find in your foods. It goes all the way over to here. So they cover it up with all kinds of things, and it's like gluten. You think it's gluten-free. Well, there's a lot of names for gluten, but this is just sugar. And again, not saying that it's all terribly bad for you, but how healthy are you while you're consuming it, right? That makes a difference too. How much inflammation do you have? How much, what's your gut permeability? What's your gut strength? Who knows, right? So again, sugar. And these will indeed cause inflammation in the body. And look, beet sugar is the first one up there. And then you got even your corn syrups. Agave syrup, a lot of people are like, oh, it comes from a fruit, that's great, right? Not really. And then you got your maltodextrins and all that we find a lot in supplementation. These eat holes in your gut lining, by the way. Yeah. So fructose, best way to fatty liver disease. So how many of you have been like that, then I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to lose fat. I'm going to start smoothies and fruit smoothies every day, all day. And I'm going to get all my fruits and vegetables in, and I can't eat that many, so I'm just going to zap them in a blender, and there we go. Okay, well, if you took all that fruit that you zapped in that blender 2 to 3 times a day, especially first thing in the morning, how much would you really eat all that? You're blending it, so how much more calories? As a matter of fact, there's a study I read a while ago, and I wish I would have marked it, but they talked about how there's multiple ways as you go through the history of food with people, and things that triggered, like all of a sudden this came in and people started gaining more weight. This came in, people started gaining more weight. And one of the things was shakes, because you could fit so many more calories in a shake, which is great for somebody who's sick, which is great for somebody who really needs to get in extra calories. But how many of us are eating right that we really need extra calories, right? So let's talk about that for a minute. If you ate the recommended daily allowance of fructose, fruit in a day, you're going to get raised uric acid levels, which increases blood pressure, increases chance of gout, acne, skin inflammation, and joint pain. So a lot of times people will eat fruits and have smoothies, and all of a sudden they've got, you can tell when people are eating fruit. I can tell when people are, especially when they're overdoing it. But anyway, LDL and triglycerides, they actually raise, which is pretty interesting because you would think it would lower it since you're not eating fats, right? And triglycerides is one of the things we look for thyroid health before TSH shows up. And that's going to equal heart attack, stroke, metabolic syndrome. Okay, so metabolic syndrome is, again, how your body's burning fats and using energy. Fatty liver, fatty pancreas, and tongue. So it makes it is part of the reason for sleep apnea. So has anyone ever heard or followed any Chinese medicine stuff at all? No? Okay, so a good Chinese medicine practitioner will ask you to see your tongue. And that's what she's looking for, is inflammation in the tongue. So sometimes sleep apnea can be from that. NASH and NAFLD, which is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, and PCOS. PCOS, fertility issues, right? Leptin resistance. So leptin is that hormone that I was talking about that gets produced that says, hey, this is how I'm going to burn fat for energy, as well as you're full, okay? So it actually stops you from producing that hormone. So you never know you're full. You're always hungry, okay? Leptin resistance is going to equal to body fat storage, always feeling hungry. Gut issues, IBS, bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, feeding back bad bacteria, dysbiosis. Okay, so consuming that amount of fructose, that amount of fruit, and everybody has this whole thing about fiber. We're not gorillas. Our colon is not that big anymore. So there's a lot of debate right now going back and forth on the fiber. So I will say that out of experience with not only my clientele, myself and Mark, I think you even know this, fiber is a little overrated. But again, each of us are going to have our own gut bacteria, biome, whatever. So maybe some of you do better on fibers, maybe some don't. Is it 100% necessary? It's not saying that it is or it isn't. But I will tell you that as we have gotten bigger brains, our colon has gotten smaller. Okay? So like I said, I've had a lot of vegans that come to me and say, or they show me a picture of a big 600-pound gorilla who's eating, twigs all day. Great. I don't have his colon, and I'm not a 500-pound monkey. I had a bigger brain than he does, which is why I know not to eat bamboo. I don't know. Also, it glycates the cells 7 times faster than glucose, okay? So, which means the advanced glycation end product, or ACE, is what it sets off, and it actually creates you, or causes you to age faster in your skin and degenerates your joints, because it actually produces a glue. So H1A1C, that when they check you for that, that's what they're looking for. And that's what fructose does to you. It actually speeds up that process and gives you more of it. And it creates like a glue. Okay? Like a sticky substance. Okay, so some studies, because I told you I was going to give you some. So fructose is a simple sugar that is present in fruit and honey. High fructose corn syrup has been suggested to be more lipogenic than sucrose. Lipogenic means shutting down the ability to burn fat, okay? So you're not even going to burn any energy at that point, okay? And then why is it doing that? It's because it's how it's metabolized in the liver. Remember, it equals non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So the aspect of it is that fructose is metabolized, and when it's being metabolized, the ATP levels are going to be reduced, and it's going to cause a transient block in protein synthesis and induce induction in oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction that turns out to have a key role in fructose-mediated effect. Okay? So, layman's terms is, like I said, it's stopping your cells from burning that energy like it's supposed to. It actually causes adipose tissue to store fat versus burn it. Okay? And these are some of the studies that go with it. And again, if any of you guys want more studies, let me know. Don't ever take my word for it. Look at it yourself. Don't take anybody's word for anything. You should always research. It's on the net. You can find it out there. So fructose, the prevalence of, this is from the Journal of Gastrology, the prevalence of NASH associated with both psoriasis and hepatocellular carcinoma was reported to be high among patients with type 2 diabetes with or without obesity. So basically, it's even worse if you're if you have type 2 or you're pre-diabetic and you think you're going to lose weight by doing fruit smoothies, right? See what I'm saying? It's not necessarily that fruit's awful for you, but it's where you are in your body's ability to break this stuff down, and where you are with your inflammation. What is the health of your body already? Okay? All right, so now we're going to break down fats. Does anybody have any questions on sugar? So it's fruit. I mean, occasionally you want to have your blueberries and stuff, like I get it. But again, it's occasionally, right? Everything in moderation. So we're gonna break down fats, and here's why we're gonna break down fats. Because so many people come to me and they say, I did a keto diet and it didn't work. Okay? I'm on carnivore diet and I'm still fat. Okay. And there's a billion, quadrillion different fats out there. Okay? I'm not going to get into breaking down each one of them, but I'm going to focus on just a couple here. So, is it good or bad for you? So you hear a couple things. It's good for your heart, it's bad for your heart. It's good for cholesterol, it's bad for cholesterol. It lowers LDL. It increases LDL. Okay? Makes you fat, makes you skinny. Equals inflammation. Sure, some of it does, right? So let's break that down a little bit. So good fats and bad fats. So these are your polyunsaturated fats, which equal lanolinic acid. Started being produced more in 1979 is when they started talking about most of this stuff. And then you got your saturated fat, which is your stearic fat. Okay, just for simplicity, we're going to focus on these two. So your polyunsaturated fats are your lanolinic acid, which is not what you want to have raised in your blood panel. Okay, you're going to look more at your stearic acid. Unhealthy, healthy. So flaxseed, flax oil, canola oils, soybeans, pumpkin seeds. I don't even know what perulina seeds are, but I threw them in there just in case you guys see them on your labels. I don't know. Tofu. Whoa. Walnuts, walnut oil, safflower oil, corn oil, all seed oils. They are labeled as vegetable oil. They are not vegetable oil. They are seed oils, okay? Do you know what it takes to get oil out of seed? I mean, that's a lot of chemical shit. If I showed you a plant that creates vegetable oil versus your pasture-raised animals, which one do you want, right? It's kind of like I have a new client who works in a place that makes orange paint, okay? And he says, do you know the difference between the orange paint that they spray onto metal things versus the orange coloring of Cheetos? And I'm like, no, what? He says 6 feet. So it's two conveyor belts. One says food grade and one says chemical grade. So again, right? It's like butter in the movie theater, okay? The chemical compounds are the same as the lubricants that we used in the tool and die industry to lube the machines to drill holes in. Which is why the guy would drink it to show us how healthy it was. Whatever. Anyway, so your stearic fats are going to be fatty pieces of meat such as beef, lamb, red meat. Okay, red meat, guys. A 2010 study showed that grass-fed beef may elevate cholesterol less than grain-fed beef. Well, cholesterol isn't bad, okay? It's actually good for you, but it's triglycerides and LDL. So a lot of times people will get on keto diets and carnivore diets and they start saying, well, my cholesterol is higher. You know, you get to handle stress better, right? It's not necessarily just those one numbers, and it's not necessarily the number, it's the size of the molecules. They will, if you tell your doctors to look at the size of them, they'll charge you extra because it's more work for them. It's the same as if you get blood work and you ask, they give you serum levels versus red blood cell level. Well, what's the difference between that? If I'm taking a magnesium supplement and they draw my blood, guess what? I have magnesium, right? It's kind of a no-brainer. But am I absorbing it? Are my cells actually pulling that in and utilizing it? So you don't know until you look. And it's the same with the cholesterol. It's how big are they? Are they big and fluffy, which means they're not going to cause a problem, or are they small and tight, which will cause a problem? So less about numbers and more about size, if you can get into that. Some pork and chicken products. Dairy products including cream, whole milk, butter, and cheese, and coconut oil. Well, Adrian, that's a seed, but it's higher in stearic acid. Okay, you guys see there's no olive oil on here. Jury's out on that one. Because it can go either way, and I think that's more along the health of the person. And also, in fairness, most olive oils that are being bought out there are not olive oil. It's mixed with canola oil. Okay? So even when I was doing this, there were so many studies out there, and you have to learn how to study. You have to learn how to research, because I can pick any paper and pick everything I want to out of it to fit me. right, to fit my argument at all. But if you start looking at the way they did it, you know, oh, these people they gained more weight because they were on this kind of fat. Yes, but you mixed it with polyunsaturated fat. See what I'm saying? So it has to be pure. So if you decide to look at this stuff on your own, look at the studies and how they actually broke them up, what they used. There's a great one that just came out that was shared by, drawing a blank right now. I'll get his name to you guys. And it was on Chinese and how they were getting more overweight, putting fat on with an isocaloric diet, even though they were still eating the same grains, by changing fat. And the type of fat that was used actually made them fatter. So it wasn't the rice, it wasn't the carbohydrates, because all of them had the same calories across the board. And even though they all lost weight because the calories were lower, they lost weight. But those that were doing the cleaner fats, the stearic acid fats versus the polyunsaturated fats, lost more weight. So omega-6, we know that there's got to be that difference between more omega-3 versus omega-6, the ratios, right? You guys have heard of that before, I'm sure, maybe? Kind of, okay. So you got your omega-3, omega-6, omega-9. Your omega-3 should be higher than your omega-6s. I think it's like 3-to-1 or something like that. So when omega-6, which is going to be those vegetable oils, seed oils, is present, chronically induces ataxia in chickens. Okay, do you guys know what ataxia is? They literally lose, yes, it's a neurological dysfunction. They lose, it's like they're crazy. It's like they have Alzheimer's is what you want to think of. Their muscles don't work right, their brain doesn't work right, they're just lost all control. It promotes neuroinflammation in rats and is linked to abnormal neural development in humans. It's pro-oxidative, insulin resistant at a cellular level. Your fat cells become insulin resistant. What the shit, right? That's not supposed to happen. That means that you can't burn fat for fuel and you can't burn sugar for fuel, right? So again, what happens? We get healthy. Outside of cutting carbs, and we add in our fruits and our veggies, yay, look at us being healthy. We go to white meat. I'm eating chicken, I'm eating turkey, look at me. Look at the typical bodybuilder diet. It's rice, broccoli, chicken, right? Fuck my life. Sorry guys, never eat that before. I've never eaten it, but and if you do a test on them for allergies, that's what they're allergic to, because they're consuming the same thing all the time. It's really that simple. Not that you're necessarily allergic to it that way, but you can be. I'm allergic to corn. I can't eat chicken. I can't eat corn-fed animals, and I will know if they're lying to me. Now I've learned to tell from the color of the meat. So the color of the fat of the meat. If it says grass finished, that means that it was, up until the time it was slaughtered, it ate grass. Not grass pellets, but grass, okay? The fat of that animal will be brown or yellow versus that real nice, bright, white, marbly that you see from, beef. You don't want that. That's not healthy fat. And if you're going to eat fat, because carnivore keto tells you to, do you really want to eat fat of an animal that's sick? Because where is all of his toxins? We store our toxins in our fat, and we're no different than animals, right? So if you're eating that fat, you just kind of screwed yourself. So fat cells will not work, make them burn fat or insulin or energy. Omega-6 leads to metabolic syndrome, cellular degeneration, type 2 diabetes, heart failure, Parkinson's, obesity, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and early death. So Parkinson's and stroke, that's in the brain. What the hell does that have to do with our brain, right? Ooh, we're going to find out. I love that. I'm so into my brain. All right, don't eat chickens. Remember what I just said about linoleic acid, right? You are the animal that you're eating. That's what you're getting, right? So it's not the animal that you're eating, it's what did your animal eat, okay? It's really that simple. This is how they should eat. Look at this, here's something I noticed. Look at their feather structure compared to even theirs. They don't even look healthy. Poor little things. And there they are eating that corn, okay? You eat corn, it produces, now here's the difference too. The chicken, the turkey, and the pork, the cow, pig, Adrian, pig. I'm like, what is that animal? They are fed the corn. They don't have the ability to turn that lanolinic acid into stearic acid. Beef will. Okay, so even if it is fed, it can convert some of it over, but not all of it. So you're still going to get higher lanolinic acids in a grain-fed cow than you will a grass-fed cow, but not as much as you will in chicken, okay, or pork, and even turkey. Hence the reason Mark always laughs at me, because I'm like, well, not so much anymore, but people laugh at me. I'm like, I don't eat beef, chicken, pork, or turkey. And they're like, oh my God, what do you eat? I've got 15 different protein sources that I eat. It's all game though. But I don't eat any of the farm stuff. And again, like I said, I stopped eating chicken many years ago just because of the corn. I would have an asthma attack when I would have it. So that's how sometimes I would go to these restaurants. I'm like, is it grass-finished beef? Oh my God, yeah, it's so grass-finished. No. No, it's not. I'm leaving out of there like, why can't I breathe, right? And that's what it'll do. All right, so this was a study that was done on chickens, okay? It's very long, I'm gonna get to the point. But if you look at it, this is how many days they died. This is how quickly they were dying when they were fed corn. They were dying pretty quick, okay?
Days?
Yeah, 28 days when they were fed, let's see, these were the chicks. Yeah, these were all chicks. They were fed the same. Some were fed the actual meal, and some were fed, they actually some of them put fat in them also, just to see, but they were dying in days. Yeah, this one is 5, 10, or 15 days They developed autofluorescent granules, acid phosphase reaction production, brain capillaries by day 10, electronic brain density, so they were kind of getting Alzheimer's and blockages in the brain. So yeah, this is a study on chickens that eat corn. So again, remember, you're getting the same lanolinic acid if you eat those animals.
Does it happen with eggs too?
It can. It can. Yeah. So that's why you want to look for those free-ranged, pasture-raised eggs. There's definitely a difference. I mean, I've definitely sought and found out the farms in this area. And luckily, I have a friend of mine that she raises chickens. And they just run. She was so excited when it was a couple months ago because the ticks are really high. And she's like, oh my God, they could eat 50 pounds of ticks a day, each one of them. Little fat asses. That's another thing. Oh, chickens, they're, you know, you read the packages and it's like it's a vegan fed diet. You know, oh my God, they're fed a vegan diet. They're carnivores, guys. They eat bugs. They're not vegetarians. When you take a creature that is not meant to consume just vegetables and you give them what they're not supposed to have, we're creatures that are supposed to eat a certain way, right? So just like it causes problems in those animals, it's going to cause problems in us too, okay? Think about that. It's all about balance, right? We'll get into gut biome and stuff hopefully as we go. Okay, omega-3. So here's a new study. I'm going to get rocks thrown at me for sure. But a human study showing that lanolinic acid lowered the combination of EPA and DHEA, reducing headache frequencies in patients with drug-resistant migraines. Meaning, a lot of women, here's more so from women, like they get migraines, they have them constantly, all the time, even their drugs aren't working. Okay, remember I said that bad fat, that lanolinic acid, can produce headaches in people, okay? Inflammation, remember? So they're saying that the omega-3s definitely help with that, okay? If you eat red meat consistently, you do not require additional omega-3s, okay? If you eat fish a few times a month, you do not require additional omega-3s. This is where we're going to get into trouble because Poliquin loved his omega-3s. High dosing of EPA, DHEA, especially EPA. It is good for you, don't get me wrong. 99% of people probably need omegas that high because they don't eat red meat, they don't get in souse, they don't get in good sources of stearic acid. Okay, they don't. So what happens is their omega-3 goes down. So in the general pop, I would say yes, it's important to get your omega-3s in. But if you are healthier, you don't need the high dosing of omega-3 anymore. It does cause heart disease or blockages in the heart of sorts. So eat clean, eat healthy, you'll be fine, your body will know what to do with itself, okay? Alcohol. alcohol. It's so pretty, right? My daughter always says, Mom, I think we should have a wine rack just because the bottle's so pretty. I just think it's good decoration. And I'm like, well, okay, yeah, sure. And it is, it's pretty. Sometimes I walk past in the grocery store and I'm like, oh, that bottle's so pretty. I just want it. And I'm like, I don't want it. What am I gonna do with it? I'll use it for cooking sometimes, but Dr. Amen, this is great. Wine is not a health food. It's not a health drink, right? Oh, but it has resveratrol in it. It's got to be good for you. Well, we're going to break that down. Why not alcohol? Okay. Drinking an overextended period causes several changes in the body that can lead to inflammation. Okay? Inflammation causes organ dysfunctions throughout the body, especially in the liver and the brain. Alcohol is absorbed in 2 organs, 80% in the liver, 20% in the brain. So that's why you get that way, and that's why this gets inflamed. Now, alcohol with eating chicken and doing fruit smoothies. Whoa! Your liver is done, right? Done, poor thing. Not to mention your brain. Alcohol increases the production of endotoxins in the gut. Inflammation. Let me finish. It decreases the strength of intestinal barrier that might block them, equaling a leaky gut. So do seeds. So do lentils, right? So does gluten. Our poor gut has no chance on the average diet. And it's not always your fault because you think you're doing healthy. If you look at the food pyramid, you're going to die really fast, because it's all fucked up. It's all wrong. It's wrong, okay? But you guys don't know this stuff. Whatever your jobs are, other than Mark, I can't walk into your place and say, I'm here to do your job today. Everybody move over. You know, I can't go into Erin's job and be like, I'm here. I'm showing up for Erin and do her job. What the fuck she does? I'm gonna screw all kinds of shit up. It's the same. And food is so distorted because this is Food and Drug Administration. Who thought it was a good idea to put our food and drugs together? By the same people. To be looked at. What? I've known people that have stopped working in labs producing medicine because they were told produce medicine that makes people sick. Ooh, I was gonna get deleted off here. We're gonna get deleted. It's okay. All right. You want me the first time, yeah. Alcohol use has a negative effect on both females and male reproductive systems. In women, chronic drinking can affect ovaries, resulting in fertility issues, hormone deficiencies, irregular periods, missed periods, or failure to ovulate. So many young girls nowadays are having so many problems getting pregnant, and it's like, all right, let's sit down and look at your food. Do you eat? Because you drink way more than you eat. And it's like, well, I don't want to get fat. Okay, we call that alcoholic anorexia. And it happens because they want to drink their calories and they think it's a good thing. It's not a good thing. And then they wonder why they can't get pregnant, right? Or why they have PCOS. And what do they want to do? Here's a birth control pill. Let's regulate your cycle. The hell did you just do? You just gave me an anabolic steroid. What's the difference between me going and taking some? If that's the case, I can take a low dose of Anavar. Maybe that'll help me have a regular period, right? They're not getting to the problem. They're not finding the source of why you're having a problem. And they never will tell you to stop drinking because they like to drink too. I don't metabolize it very well at all. And it hurts. And it's funny, when I was younger and I would drink and it would be like, okay, I gotta give it 15 minutes. My legs would ache, my muscles would hurt, and I had to get up out of the chair and walk to the bathroom to get it to go through. What the hell was I thinking? Right? What was I thinking? Duh. And sometimes I would have a hangover, and sometimes I would have a hangover, and when I had a hangover, it was like days, 3-4 days at a time, feeling like crap. And then some days I wouldn't get nothing. Go figure, I don't know. But the last time I touched it, literally one mouthful of a mixed drink, you guys heard this story, but 12 hours later, started detoxifying through my brain didn't like it. I went from not even feeling, it was one swig of a mixed drink that was completely watered down. And 12 hours later, brain was inflamed, wanted someone to literally cut a hole in my brain. Pure, like I was trashed the night before. Like vomiting, room spinning, hot flashes, couldn't eat, and it took 2 weeks to get rid of that. And I was like, yep, not touching it again. And the reason I didn't even finish that drink, because it was so watered down, was I was like, I can have a piece of cake instead of this, right? Doing the same thing for the most part, except my body can handle obviously the cake differently. I don't drink eat cake now, but anyway, back then I would have. All right, in women, chronic drinking, okay, did that. In men, alcohol will drop testosterone and increase the production of estrogen, man boobs. And if you're in the gym, you're a natural athlete, natural, and you're trying to put muscle on, the last thing you want to do is throw some alcohol in there. And in my gym, I have the ability, I do metabolic analytics. Some of you have been a piece of that, part of that. And I can't, there's certain hormones, there's many hormonal systems that I look at, and there's certain hormones that I can't get to move. And they can't seem to break a certain spot. And it's like, but you won't stop the drinking. So then I say, okay, tell you what, and nobody believes this, there's no way that drinking alcohol is doing this to me. So I say, okay, for shits and giggles, prove me wrong. Don't drink for a week. Just give it 7 days, and let's see what happens. You're probably not going to drop any fat in that time, but let's just see hormonally what happens. And sure as shit, they come in and their numbers are off. And they're like, are you kidding me? There's no way, right? There's no way that happened. So then they're like, all right, I'm going to try it for another week. They try it for another week. Sure as shit, numbers come down again. Now, their lean mass went up and their body fat came down. On top of their hormones are now going down even more. Sometimes I can get them at that point and they'll kind of stay with it for about a month or so before they have another drink, and some of them are like, all right, well now I'm going to test it the other way. And I had a younger guy in there, and I had 2 of them actually, and they're still with me and they're doing great. I finally got him to stop drinking. He's doing great. Well, it was one of their birthdays and they hadn't drank for about 2 months at this point. They had 1 shot each. They came in, they got pinched. Sure as shit, there it was, right on the boards. Estrogen went way up, testosterone came way down, all the other hormones, liver showed up, everything showed up. And for 2 weeks, their numbers went down until after the 2 week, and then they plateaued, and then after that it came up. So from what I've seen through being with my information that I have, is it takes 2 weeks, and it was 1 shot of alcohol is all they did. 1 shot, and that's what it did to them. So people are like, oh, well, what if I only drink once a day? What if I only drink, instead of 2 glasses, 1 glass? I can't undo it, and I can't unchange. Someone else said, well, what can I do in my diet to change it, or what can I take? Because everybody knows I have these Amazeballs supplements. I can't. There's nothing I can do for alcohol. It is what it is. I can help detoxify it from you faster. I can help get it out of your system faster. I can, fix the damage that it's done over time. But as long as you put it in, there's nothing I can do. And I'm not going to sit there and say running more on the treadmill, because as you see, it eats a hole in your gut lining. This is bad. This is real bad. This means that you can get bad bacteria up into the brain with the phrenic nerve, with the vastus nerve. And there's studies that show that if they cut that nerve on both ends, you won't get Parkinson's. Even if they give you the stuff to get Parkinson's, because it doesn't travel up. Crazy, isn't it? You don't want leaky gut. That's like huge for also a lot of autoimmune diseases. All autoimmune diseases actually come from there. And I can, if we get that far, I can explain to you why. But no, nothing I can do about alcohol. Chronic alcohol use impairs not only gut and liver functions, but also organ interactions, leading to persistent symptomatic inflammation and ultimately to organ damage. I can go through this whole study. It's right there if you want to look at it. But the big thing that with this whole thing is that it's going to cause all kinds of shit, which equals cardiovascular disease. So here we are looking at, we're not going to eat this because it causes heart attacks. We're not going to eat fats because it causes meat fats cause heart attacks. But so does alcohol. Why are we not talking about this, right? We won't even get on the subject of what's going on nowadays with this disease, but I did 42 hours of study when this came out with top medical doctors, with top naturopaths, all of us combined together. If you're inflamed, you're going to have an issue with it. If you're not inflamed, you're going to be fine, okay? And you can't look at somebody and say, well, you're overweight, so you are. Yes, you do have inflammation, but you can be skinny fat too. You can be skinny and have muscle and be lean and be unhealthy, right? I mean, I could look like this on the outside and be shit in the inside, right? Because let's say I have a genetic disposition to where I can eat sugars and carbohydrates and it doesn't do anything to me, which yes, I am a carb bitch, I can do that. But what is it doing to me, right? And it's not because I don't want to be fat. It's because I like my brain and I like my liver. You only get one of them. You only get one. And I want to be healthy, right? I don't want to look like this in 30 years and be standing at CVS to get my dementia medicine with a poopy diaper and no one told me. It's not attractive, right? And I'm going to tell you guys now, my girls, my daughters, no, they are not going to take care of mom. They will leave me in the corner in a poopy diaper, drooling on myself, and they want me to sign their check. I don't want that. I don't want that. And if I can put myself into a home, I don't want to be abused and not be able to tell somebody. Sorry, I want my brain. Right? You ever remember there's a newer, Rick, you would know this more than me, but the cartoon where it's like the head is on the robot, but his head is alive? Like, that's what I want to be. Like, just leave my head and my brain. I could be attached to a robot. I don't care. But I love my brain. So, neurodegeneration, the pro-inflammatory cytokines in the brain that are closely linked to neurodegeneration, and Alzheimer's. So again, alcohol is not recommended for those with depression. Depression is being treated with anti-inflammatories now. Okay? Depression is literally it's an inflammatory issue. Okay? Gut issue. Everything comes from the gut. All right. So on top of all the other health issues, you can look at anything from suicides to violence to whatever, but look at the difference even in the health-related issues versus just the typical drunken asshole stuff, right? Much higher for most of the part, except for epilepsy is 13%. Traffic injuries, breast cancer, didn't even think about that one, did you? Pancreatitis, so you got a fatty liver, and again, people want to take out your gallbladder. Doctors will stop, don't take out your gallbladder. If your gallbladder is a problem and you take it out, why is your gallbladder a problem? What was going on with your liver and your pancreas? What was going on with your intestines? You can fix your gallbladder. This is what they say, it's working at 15%, we need to remove it. Well, if my brain only works at 15%, you can take it out, right? If I've had clients that, I'm not gonna say, but anyway, they were my very first client starting off, and he was a vegan, I'm gonna say it, he's a vegan. And he didn't eat anything besides fruits and vegetables and a bunch of boxed food, because that's what they eat, right? Boxed food. All kinds of bad fats in them. And he had 2% blockage in his heart. Went in for a quintuple bypass and survived. The back of his heart was, quote unquote, from the doctor's hamburger meat. And he survived. 2%, I mean, hell, just take it out. He's done at that point, right? Why do we do this with our gallbladder? There's gallbladder flushes, there's ways to fix it, but again, even if they remove the gallbladder, they're not addressing the problem of the liver and the gut, also the pancreas, okay? Questions? You guys ready to like throw the computer at me and leave our, yeah, I can't do anything. Where are we on time, we good?
5 minutes till.
Okay, we'll make this fast then. Grasses and grains. When you kill an animal, you guys, you take away its defensive mechanism. Before you eat a plant, when is it dead? No, they're not. They're never dead. Okay? That's their defense mechanism. Plants outlive humans. Okay? Plants outlive animals because of their defense mechanism. They don't want you to be eaten. They don't want to be eaten. They don't want to be eaten. So they're going to fight all the time. When you zap them, I'm going to make this really fast. When you zap them in the blender, you release those toxins faster. Are they good for us? Yes. They do go in there. They kill a lot of bad pathogens and do that kind of stuff. If you chew it, kale's highly toxic. That's why we like to cook it. Okay? It's good to be cooked. But if you chew it, you're going to release a little bit of it. You lightly cook it. Great. It gets in there, does its job, cleans you out. Typically, people will go to the bathroom after they've eaten it. Now, if you do a blended fruit, kale, spinach, green apple shake, you've just released the toxins. And think about it. When you use herbs, what do you do to get the juices out of them? You grind them, right? You smash them. If I'm making mint tea, what do I do with my mint leaves? I poke them to get the oils out of them. Whatever. It's toxins, let's be real. It's what I'm doing, okay? Seeds, if we talk about seeds, nuts and seeds, okay? Some of you have heard this from me as well. Nuts are not necessarily evil. but when you eat a lot of them, it's high toxin. Those are the babies of the plants, okay? They're definitely protecting themselves. If we were out in the wild, okay, I remember as a little girl, we had a walnut tree in our yard. I hated those things. They burned my tongue. They didn't taste good. Now all of a sudden, they're like butter. They like melt in your mouth. I've never tasted a walnut like this, right? Because they've beaten it down so much and they've done so much to it, but we're not meant to consume them. So what happens is if we're out in the wild and we come across one, maybe we're hungry, we eat one or two, we get it down, it burns, it does whatever, we get it down. Okay, great. Pretty much we're not going to eat it. But nowadays, it's so filtered that we eat a bag of them. That amount of toxin is going to be the same as if you ate it right off of the tree that's never been touched, that doesn't want you to eat it because it needs to go back into the ground and plant itself, than if you eat a bag of what we have nowadays that all that's been removed or altered in some sort of way. Okay. Gluten, not only naturally present in bread, cake, pasta, beer, and pizza, but nearly 2,000 different food types, ranging from sauces to processed meats and over 100 non-food items, from pain relievers to shampoo. And 100 is definitely a lot higher now. So again, if we think about the grains and all of that, grains, lectins, and gluten eats holes in your gut lining. That is what it does. On my Instagram and on my Facebook page for Fitness Evolution, I did a whole 7-minute talk on gluten and what it does. So due to time, if you guys want to look into that, you can. But literally, it's glue. And it attaches just like lectins, just like seeds, right to the gut lining, eats a hole in it, produces a shit ton of toxins. Phytotoxins are not good. Equals inflammation. So good grains, why so bad? Leaky gut, arthritis, asthma, type 1 diabetes, multiple sclerosis. From grains? Leaky gut, right? We're not meant to eat them. Autoimmune disease, because of the leaky gut, causes immune surveillance response. So what happens is, when you have that leaky gut, it engages a part of the immune system that responds quickly against parasites, fungi, worms, microorganisms, allergic response, okay? I can eat something that has gluten in it and I lose my breathing. I have a hard time breathing, okay? But what happens is when that gluten is in there and you have that leaky gut and everything, what's gonna happen is all of a sudden the body says these things aren't supposed to be there. So it starts attacking it, hence autoimmune. It's about when the body doesn't know the difference between bad things and good things and it attacks it, okay? The thyroid also, because gluten and the thyroid molecule that covers the top of it looks the same in the blood system. So the body doesn't know when it's getting rid of gluten and when to stop attacking, especially if you put it in your system every day. Gluten takes 14 to 28 days to get out of your system. One dosing of it. How many times do you eat it in a day? Brain issues. Antibody against gluten removed from human blood attacks cerebral proteins and components of the myelin sheath that insulates the nerves. I know you know what that is. So there are people that so in the brain, the nerve has sheathing and it's protected by those cerebral proteins, right? So what happens is those get degenerated, they break down, and you end up with brain problems. As a matter of fact, I have a client of mine from many years ago had a daughter that was born without it. And she literally couldn't do anything. She just sat there. She couldn't talk. She never talked in her life. She never moved her own body. She couldn't bathe herself. She couldn't eat. She couldn't do anything. That was the end of it. So, I don't want that. I don't want it. And this is to be continued because kids, we just opened a bunch of Pandora's boxes for sure. So, I can't say the end because to me it's a beginning. All right? And I know it's a lot of information and it's very different probably from what you've heard. But if you want to talk about what you can do, since I just took everything away from you, right? Stick with more natural way of eating, okay? And that's going to change per season. We can get into that at another time. Gut biome has been shown to change. There is no one that knows for sure exactly the perfect gut biome. You don't. You don't know what that's going to be because each person is going to be different. The seasons are going to change it. What you're eating is going to change it. High cholesterol is hereditary. No, it's not. You eat the same because you're in the same house, right? Any one of you. We can continue from here until a year from now and eat the same exact thing. And guess what? Our blood work is going to look the same. I'll look like your sister. because we eat the same thing, right? So not all of us do. So whatever your preference is, I would say, I don't believe in taking away and not giving or altering it or something, but try to mix things up a little bit more. And if you really want to know, find out your own body. Find out what your system is doing and what you need for you, because that's where it boils down to, right? My clients don't do my diet. My other client don't do that diet, but I start them somewhere to see where it's going to go. And you have to. But the biggest way to be healthy and to lose weight is get rid of inflammation. And I think that, again, paying attention to what you eat is the biggest thing. Packaged foods are just not what you want to go for. Learn to read labels, right? Learn to read labels. And like I said, all this information is out there. I didn't make this up. It's all there. So if you guys have any more questions, yep.
How do you suggest, like, getting rid of sugar in your diet? Because sugar's been shown to be super addictive. So
It
how
is.
do you suggest kind of cutting that out?
Okay. It's not easy. Most of the time when you have a sugar addiction, you have to look at this, because these tell us what to eat. A lot of times when I see little kids or even adults that really want to drink a lot of milk, they don't want to drink milk. They're looking for sugar, okay? It's dairy and it's sugar. You're feeding these guys. So not only would I say addressing your gut biome to see if you have any overgrowths of anything that are causing you to crave that, but also replacing. Because the human body doesn't know the difference between this sugar or that sugar, except how it's broken down. So sometimes you can trick your body into getting off of that other sugar by not letting yourself get hungry and eating enough food. Remember, if you're eating sugar, your body's breaking it down. You're not satisfying it, okay? If I gave you, let's say I gave you a plate of, let's say I gave you a 4-ounce steak, piece of meat, let's say a piece of red meat, and I gave you 2 to 3 cups of vegetables, you'll probably be satisfied because you're not used to maybe eating vegetables, okay? And let's say even take that out. If I give you blueberries with that piece of meat, or I give you a piece of souse, which is kidney fat, you will be satisfied much longer. Even though you don't feel as full as you do right now, it will satisfy you much longer. But a lot of times when we're, and I'm guilty of it too. Let's say I'm at the gym and I expect to be home at a certain time to eat and it doesn't happen. I don't believe in just throwing something in my mouth because I'm raising insulin, okay? So I don't throw a handful of this, I don't do it. I will wait until it's my time to eat again, okay? So let's say I'm supposed to eat at 12, my client doesn't leave until 3, or I don't get a break until 3, but I'm not supposed to eat until 5, I don't eat until 5. Well, hell, if it's been a big back and leg day, and I ate breakfast at 6 a.m., I'm starving. So while my meat's cooking, what am I looking for, right? What are you looking for? Take a tablespoon of coconut oil and put it in your mouth. Goes away. Goes away. So again, it's a process. I have many people, and they end up with really fatty livers because of the sugar. It's not easy, so it's a process. You would have to be worked with and showing you how to replace. Okay? And yes, you're still going to want your sugar, so you're going to have it every now and then. But what is your source of that sugar to calm that down while you heal yourself to not want that? Because we're not meant to crave sugar. And a lot of times, I forgot about this, take a 1/4 teaspoon of pink salt, put it in your mouth and swig some water. A lot of times we're not looking for sugar, we're looking for salt, right? Sometimes we're hungry because we're thirsty, right? So a lot of times when they have those, I say, okay, stop, ask yourself why. Find your why. Why are you eating that? Are you really hungry? Are you angry? Are you stressed? You're already inflamed. Don't add ice cream to that. Now you just made it worse, right? And on top of it, you're going to store, because when you get angry or stressed, even me giving this talk changed my gut biome for today. So I have to change my diet for today. Thanks, guys.
White pink salt. What's that?
There's 9 different salts that I have in my house. So, and I don't have white table salt because everything's been taken out of it and then put back in. It's not real, right? It's just like flour. It's not real. So the colored salts, each of them, and I did a whole presentation, as a matter of fact, on my Facebook and Instagram on that too. And I actually broke down every salt and all the minerals in it and which one's higher and what. But there's minerals in those salts. So a lot of times you're looking for minerals. You're malnutrition, right? It doesn't matter. If you have a leaky gut, it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. You're malnutrition. I went through that. I was 87 pounds when I graduated high school. Ate you out of house and home, let me tell you. I ate like a man. It was awful. But I had leaky gut, so I didn't absorb anything. After getting rid of dysbiosis, going through gut rehabilitation, I did 3 of them. It took about a year to go through all 3. I put 9 pounds of mass on in a year. It was like my body was like, girl, look what we've been working so hard for, right? Yes, I'm still tiny, but I'm not 87 pounds, right? But that's what it took. And I could eat any sugar I want. And that's a hard thing for me because it actually makes me leaner, it makes me smaller because it's so absorbed, because I don't have a lot of fat cells, I have more muscle mass. It's stored, glycogen is stored in muscle. Okay, well, unless you're eating bad fats, and then it's actually stored in your fat cells as well, go figure. So it goes through me really fast, so I can get away with it. But does it matter if I know it's aging me faster and I'm gonna have complications and I can't lift the next day because I'm inflamed and I don't feel good, especially at my age, right? I wanna go to lift heavy shit every day. I don't wanna wake up feeling like crap. And I have a bunch of educating I gotta do for everybody, so I don't want my brain to, I don't wanna lose my brain. Not the chalk.
Hey, can you give like some, just maybe 3 or 4 tips for dealing with the immune system and boosting your immune system, and not just for the cold and stuff, but getting the cold flu season and stuff like that, what people can do easy to help them out?
I would say definitely start looking at some of this stuff, because if you can get that inflammation down. I haven't had a cold in 25 years. It's been that long. But looking at the gut permeability, right? Because this is your immune system. Okay, everything comes from here. It's your immune system. So start there. So one thing I would say is getting rid of those bad fats, the PUFAs, and then adding more red meats in your diet is going to be helpful. And again, it's going to be a process, okay? It's natural too. You don't have to find it anywhere. Just eat it. Definitely add in, at this moment in time, this is harvest season. If we were still 200 years ago, which we have not changed from 200 years ago, you would be harvesting right now. So this is when the gut biome is actually ready to eat more vegetables, okay? Fruits, yes, you can sprinkle them in, but try to get that fiber in, because here's the other thing, something to think about. This is the time to eat fruits because we're gonna be getting fat for winter. What happens in the winter? If we're actually hunters and gatherers, so we ain't gathering shit, right? We're gonna be hunting, but we're not gathering. So they will make you, as a matter of fact, animals get pregnant at this time of year also, because they're fatter because they had more food available to them. So sleep, super important to get your sleep. You've got to get your sleep. That will help you with your immune system, helps with testosterone, helps balance so many different hormones in the body. Staying hydrated is another part of it. Again, picking clean foods. I don't want to get into supplements. I did do a post on Strength Sensei about immunity and a bunch of things that you can take for that, but keeping your vitamin C levels high is a good one. Okay, we'll get into some of that. Not through orange juice, guys. I saw somebody talking about, it doesn't matter, I'm not going to go into it. Because you're adding fructose. How much, like alcohol. People use this resveratrol thing, and I'm writing this article, and I didn't put it in here, and that's why I should have went over it. To get your daily recommended amount of resveratrol, which is 1,000 milligrams a day, to lower inflammation, so to speak, out of red wine, or let's say out of wine, white to red. Anywhere, the lowest, if you're drinking white wine, is 350, red wine is 378 liters a day. Okay? If you're going to drink white wine, 17,000 liters a day. Well, if 5 to 18% of that is alcohol, is that little bit of resveratrol you're getting out of there really worth the damage that the alcohol is doing? Like I said, with even what I do in my gym, I can't unchase the alcohol. I can't. Or I can't chase the alcohol and undo the damage from it. So when you do your vitamin C, you want to have the 1,000 milligrams a day of vitamin C, up to 3 grams a day, depending on your issues. If you, again, depending on your body, omega-3s are good for inflammation, anti-inflammation. Quercetin is really good. I've heard they've taken it off the shelves, but it is good to have quercetin.
Can you explain what that is?
So quercetin it's a plant, actually. Remember how they can be somewhat toxic, right? So quercetin has been shown since the 1960s and has been available since the 1960s to help with viruses, infections, inflammation, including huge with COVID-19. Miraculously, though, it's been all taken from the shelf, from behind the shelves, or from in front of the shelves and put behind the shelves. It's a plant. And you have to have a doctor's prescription to get it now. But if you're a doctor and you write a prescription from it, you can actually have your license taken away. Just saying. So quercetin is a plant, and it's a plant just like anything else. So an herb, I guess you can say maybe. I would say garlics, onions are good for you. I would take it in capsule form just to get enough curcumin. Is good. Now there's a difference between curcumin and turmeric. Turmeric is going to be more of the stem part of the plant, and the curcumin is actually the root. And one thing I learned from Charles and from more research is each part of the plant does affect the body differently. So that's why when you, again, research your supplements you're taking, because if you're getting the wrong part of the plant, it doesn't matter. If your plant had heavy metals, herbicides, pesticides, molds, funguses, even coffee. You know, a lot of my clients are, I want my coffee. I'm like, you can have your coffee. Just make sure it's from a clean source. Because how good is the coffee if you're putting mold in your body? How good is the coffee if it's got heavy metals in it, right? So many of us have many heavy metal toxins. And heavy metal is going to be a brain issue. Parkinson's, heavy metals, detoxification from the brain. So that would be some of it. But again, I mean, Mark, if you want, I can send you that link to that one. And then if you guys want to DM me or something, I can get you more stuff. And again, I think it would be more individualized, because maybe not all of you need all of that. Maybe you just need a couple of them, and definitely don't overdo it. I mean, I gave a list like this, and one of them came back to me and they're like, oh, which one do you want them to take? You know, just cycle through. And I'm like, no, find which ones you can find from a clean source, because not everybody has access to getting every one of them on there. Especially if you know, for my friends that are in Canada or even Australia, they can't get in some of the stuff that I have access to, just like I can't get in some of their things. So I did put a big list, but it's like, because I just have to see what you can find, you know? Does that help at all, Mark?
Yeah, quercetin especially, because that was one of the things I added in when all this craziness started. Because something about the zinc doesn't get into cells as quickly without it. So
Yeah, everything kind of, there's always something to carry something over into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, they do work synergistically, right? But also, okay, going along with that, you have people that are like, oh, I take my zinc, my calcium, magnesium all together, it's one capsule. Great, they just wipe out each other.
Yeah.
Right? But doctors prescribe that to people.
Well, see, that's the thing with anytime I tell someone, oh, you need more vitamin D, you need more vitamin C. Well, I take a multivitamin. Fuck. You know, you're not going to get all your daily dose in one stupid pill you got from Target.
No, and even vitamin D, it's fat soluble, and it's not a vitamin D, it's a D3, it's a hormone.
Right.
It's not a freaking vitamin. It's fat soluble, so you have to take it with a fat, okay? You can't take it on its own. The other thing is, depending on your cell absorption, taking it in a baluge once or twice a week versus daily, right? Now, if you have an autoimmune disease, it's better to take it daily because you can't really absorb that even. But also magnesium helps absorb vitamin D, right? Now, oh, Adrian, what type of vitamin or what type of magnesium? Hell, you know, magnesium's kind of like the dumb girl that gets dropped off at the bus stop. She gets dropped off and she just sits there, she's just waiting. She doesn't get used unless she has a carrier that comes to take her to where she needs to go, right? It's like she gets off the bus and she either sits there because she really doesn't get it, or she's like, oh my God, all these buses, which one? Well, she's a little stuck up, so she's just gonna stand here until somebody comes and gets her, right? So if you want it to go to your brain, you take your theanine, come on, magnesium, let's go up into, okay, I'm going to the brain. Or, you know, am I gonna go into the mitochondria? Am I gonna heal the gut? Am I gonna work with the heart? What are you using it for? So yes, everything works synergistically. You can't just take a mag, cal, zinc supplement. Like, it just doesn't work, right? Zinc should be taken first thing in the morning, second meal the latest, so before noon, magnesium in the evening. Magnesium also calms, right? That's the other thing. Oh, I take magnesium and it's a mixture of different kinds. Now, I think that there are some magnesiums that would be so much better if they put them together, but you take a threonate and you take a glycinate and then it's an upper and a downer. Your body's like, what the hell am I doing? Am I calming? Am I not? Am I giving energy? And depending on the deficiency you have of it, it can literally knock you out no matter what the form of magnesium you're getting, right? So magnesium calm, zinc kind of gives more energy. Think of it that way, and you'll remember zinc in the morning, magnesium at night. And zinc and magnesium are huge also for, for immunity. But magnesium, we are all, I don't care who you are, I don't care, you can get an injection every day and you will be deficient in magnesium. And a lot of it has to do with our food. So, yeah. How much water a day? All right, let's talk about water real quick. Temperature changes it, your activity level changes it, blah, blah, blah. But so does how much fat you have on your cells, okay? The more fat cells you have, the less it's going to pull water in to flush. So you may not be absorbing all of the water that you're drinking, okay? Especially if you're adding some of this other things in there, because remember, water's a way to detoxify. So if you're detoxifying all this and your fat cells are, and you're not, bioimpedance is off, I mean, everybody's water intake can be a little different, but the higher. I always have my clients start off at 90 ounces minimum a day, even in the wintertime, because in the wintertime you think, oh, I don't need as much, I'm not sweating. You have dry heat. You can lose a liter of water at nighttime sleeping with your forced air on. Yeah, think about it. In the summertime, you don't really wake up with cotton mouth too much in the middle of the night. In the wintertime, you do, especially if you're a mouth breather versus a nose breather. But then some people get bloody noses, right? That's how dry it is. So you actually need more water in the wintertime and in the summertime, in my opinion. Of course, it could be both, right? So, all right. Is that it?
Yeah, that's great. Anybody else have anything?
No? All right, cool.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you doing this. You got all between our two phones. You got it all on.
Do you want to just one more time let me know where they can find you if they need you?
Yep, so I am in Rocky River at FE3 Integrated Fitness. You can find me on Instagram at Fitness Evolution RR, and fitnessevolutionrr.com is the website, or the email address is the same too. And then my personal Instagrams and everything, you just find me under my name.
I'll put it all in the post too, and I'll read. The intro didn't catch again, so I'll put the intro of all the certifications and everything on there too.
Okay, yeah. And also, you guys, Strength Sensei Inc. Is also a great place to get some information. I write a lot for them, and all of us coaches are on there, and we've got some great info on there too. So click onto that, because you never know what you're going to get on that.
Yeah.
Put a lot of articles out on that.
And a lot of people on there are people I really respect, from you to Derek Woodsky, Ryan Fanley. These guys are all fantastic. So.
Yep.
I have one more question.
Sure.
So like the bro diet is so thrown out there. What do you suggest you like replace? Because that's just something that's easy, you know, rice, chicken, whatever. It's easy. I can make a bunch of it. I can eat it. What would you like suggest to replace that with?
So for me to actually answer that exactly for you, I would actually have to see your food for about 3 days to see how to replace it. Now, any food can be cooked and stored.
Right.
Okay? You really don't, that right there, that combination especially, is super inflammatory. It's not good at all. Because the other thing is your rice even gluten-free? It's supposed to be, but sometimes it's not. So we won't even go down that path. But you're adding that lanolinic acid to a carbohydrate that is just going to kind of sit there, right? And if you're blocking your fat cells from storing or from burning fat or insulin, what are you even doing with that? So the first thing I would say is cook it all exactly the same, except replace your chicken with red meat. Start there, right? Try cut it. I don't know how, and again, this is me just talking. I don't know how many times you eat rice a day. Take it to one time. Last meal of the day, 1/4 cup, that's it. Everything else, take your meats and just add a good coconut oil to it. Add your salt, add herbs to it. Add in some vegetables instead of the rice, right? Just replace some of the rice with the vegetables for now. That way you'll still feel like you're getting the impact of the rice without getting the impact of the rice. Does that make sense? And again, it's not that carbohydrates are bad for you, but it's not that fats are bad for you. It's the kinds and how-tos, by your body especially, right? I eat rice and I feel like I ate air. I'm like, I ate air. I need nothing, right? Some people eat rice and they feel really puffy inside. There's a reason that they feel that way. So again, what is your digestion? What is your availability to process those chemicals in that food? Okay, so I would say just start replacing chicken with red meat That's a great place to start right there. Even if you kept everything else the same, try that.
What do you think about potatoes?
Again, I think it depends on the person. Now, I think for what I've experienced with people, sweet potatoes don't tend to have that big, poofy, heavy, weighed down, but again, it's different kinds of starches. How do you cook it is another way, right? So I don't think they're bad, but if I'm gonna eat my refeed of carbohydrates, which I do, I don't know, maybe once every 2 weeks, I have like a quarter of a sweet potato. That's all you need, believe it or not, to restore. But let's say I decide I want to be a pig that day. If I eat those potatoes, I can't eat as much as I can eat of a sweet potato. So again, and I've noticed that people tend to have a less allergic reaction or inflammation to the sweet potato than the white potato. But it's also been proven that people are maybe not allergic or sensitive to the potato, but the fertilizers that they use on them. So if you do an organic potato, you may not have the same effect. But again, it's the same thing. It's how you process those starches. Rice is a high starch, white potatoes are high starch, sweet potatoes don't have as much of the starch in it, as much of it. I don't think they're bad. Yeah. Did that help? Okay. Yeah. It's very specific. It's hard to say, but I would just start replacing that. Okay? All right. And you're not a bro. And bros mean that there's no like data behind it. It's like, this is what I did to get on stage, and now you can do it because I have a trophy. Find out real quick. Find out what people's education is, right? Like, would you go get surgery by anybody that wouldn't you like want to know that they're an actual surgeon, right? And people do that. Think about it. People fly out of the country all the time, and they're like, yeah, I woke up and my face was open, and yeah, he wasn't even in the room. What are you doing? It's the same with your diet, in my opinion. It's the same with your training, in my opinion, right? Know what you're getting into. Ask questions. Find out what gives that person that right to give you that nutrition plan. You know, it's like, that's how you control your health, is by what you put in your mouth. Are you educated to tell me what to put in my mouth? Maybe you are, maybe you're just guessing because that's your bro way of doing it. Maybe it works for that person, girl or guy, and nowadays it can be both. Maybe it works for them. Is it gonna work for you? Maybe not, right? Maybe your body doesn't process things the same way. You don't have the same, we'll call it genetic disposition. We'll just use that term. Even though I don't agree with that term, we'll use it, okay? So you gotta get a little bit more nitty gritty with it. And there's so much other things that go involved in that. You know, even stress levels can change how you break down your food at that time. Like I said, I have to change my diet for today just because I talked to you guys, right? And I'm not even an emotional person like that. I wasn't even, crazy nervous, but I'm always nervous when I talk because I want to make sure that I'm giving good information. And I want to make sure I'm getting it all out, right? And there's so many loopholes. I'm like, okay, somebody's going to come back at me and be like, but you said, I know, but I was giving a talk. I wasn't talking to you, But yeah,
that's
so.
the thing too, is that's why we bring people like you in here, because, I'm going to tell you how I am. And I mean, we're pretty close to,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to say, hey, Gigi, this is the way you should eat because this is the way I should eat. So, we bring people in like Adrian, who has this background, who have all this knowledge to give you guys, and it's so different for everybody.
Yeah. Yep. And, going along with the whole paper thing, I mean, even if they have a certification, it doesn't mean they're the best, You can go to a doctor the same, you can go to a naturopath the same. I mean, I always look at them and I think that they're so, they should be more educated, but actual doctors get one quick kind of intro to nutrition.
3 hours max.
Yeah, it's very low. And I've gotten certified through a certain institute that's really renowned and well known around here, and I was disappointed. I actually don't talk about it. It goes in the drawer, right? But some people like it that I have that. But any of us that know this, I don't want them. Shh. Okay. I thought it was a good idea. Sorry. And some people ask me, why aren't you in the medical field? Why aren't you doing it? Because I don't want to be told that I can't treat you a certain way. right? Ethically, I'm not allowed to say to you, what's going on with mom, right? Or, hey, you know what? I've been really kind to you now. Stop putting that shit in your mouth. It's time to quit. Can't say that. Just like my body work, if I were to get a certain degree, I wouldn't be able to do my body work that I do because I touch people in places that the medical industry doesn't allow. But how do I fix you, right? I want to be able to touch you. I want to be able to feel you. I want to be able to have real conversation with you and say, hey, you know, what's going on, right? Because not everybody wants to talk about that, but those are the things that impact us all the way around. And our emotions cause chemical reactions, right? Food, the last thing to worry about, honestly, is calories. And I keep hearing this, oh, calories in, calories out, what do you spend? Okay, but is anybody gonna get fat off of meat and vegetables, right? No, but you're gonna get fat off of bad fats and bad sugars and too much of it. But is it a caloric thing or is it the way it's broken down, right? Which one is it? But calories, in my opinion, are the last thing. I never have clients count calories. Even when I get ready for a show, I really don't pay attention to calories until maybe 2 weeks out, unless I feel like I'm good. If I'm at 7% at 7 weeks out, I don't give a shit what I eat from now until then. As long as I look the way I do, and it always comes in that day, you know, before the show. But I don't have time for it. I'm not going to count every grain of rice I have, and my clients aren't either. Like you said, it's fast. Would I take someone like you and say, okay, let's start measuring out your food? Because like you're not eating right. Now, if I have somebody like Gigi that she's pretty much here, we've got her here. Well, the only way to figure out where she is and where she needs to go from there is, all right, for a week, couple days, let's get an average of where you are so we know how much to take you up. But I know her well enough now that I don't even have to do that to her. I'll just be like, okay, I want you to add this to every meal. I know how many calories that is. She doesn't necessarily know, but she knows she's getting more food, right? It's that simple. Now, if I said, go eat ho-hos, that's going to be a different story, right? It's a different story. And I hate that word, cheat meal. No one ever comes to me and says, well, when's my first cheat meal? I never get that because I don't talk like that. It's not what I believe in. I believe in health. But there are times that it's been a week and I know my calories are a little low for the week. I can just feel it. Or hell, maybe I'm hungrier that day. Eat. Your body will taper off when you're healthy. I had a huge refeed day before yesterday. Yesterday, I wasn't even hungry all day. I had to remember to eat my meat. And that's what I do. When I have those days, I eat nothing but my meat and my fat. I rarely cook vegetables anymore as it is. It's just where my body is right now. And I just listen to it. I go with what it says. And if I open the refrigerator and I go to grab my Brussels sprouts and my body's like, no, I'm like, all right, great, I don't have to cook the shit. Makes my life easier. I can cook 4 pieces of steak and eat all those and I'm good to go. I mean, I eat 3 to 4 pounds of meat a day. So there's not a lot of room after that for a lot of other things. Lord knows I'll fit it in there, but but you won't get fat that way. So that would be the one thing I would say is just calories in, calories out isn't as important as people make it. It's not the thing to make you leaner. I mean, I have people on 800 calories a day and they still don't lose any weight. A lot of people that come to me that are heavier don't really eat a lot, you know, and especially if you're on the go. I have some that are super skinny and some that are bigger just because of that. So yes, I have to get the calories up on both ends. And it's amazing to see the difference on both ends by feeding you, right? But it's also figuring out your lifestyle and what works. I mean, I can create a great diet, give you a great, you know, plan as to every time to eat, but if it doesn't fit what you do, it doesn't fit what you do. And eventually I have to say, okay, we've got to get you on a rhythm, so try to hit these times. Whatever you got to do to make that happen eventually, but never right off in the beginning. Just, you can't. You got to taper it in. Pepper it in, I guess you can say, right? Yeah. So, yeah?
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys.